Patriot fans. McGarvin and I are going to take you on a bit of a whimsical yet inventive journey right now. As we discuss team's 20-13 loss from Sunday afternoon against the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to cut right to the chase. It's not that the loss that bums me out. It's just some of the stuff where it's like, simple football tactics that could have been cleaned up to help prevent the loss. Or not, at least, the lead that they gave up.
Yeah. I think it's fair to be frustrated with how the how of it all, right? Because, losing isn't new to Patriots fans over the last few years, right? They've won 8 games in the last 2 years. So, it's not losing necessarily that has everyone all been out of shape. It's the how, though, people kind of expected the Patriots to hit the ground running, and they certainly did not do that. And so, folks are very disappointed in how the game went. And that's fine. Geno Smith throws for 362 or 342 yards against you. He's back there absolutely chilling in the pocket, no pressure. It's like, all right, like we've seen this last couple times they played Geno. It's kind of looked like that. So it's like, all right, like frustrating.
Yeah. So when I look at this game, I feel like there's good and bad to take away from it. I know the it's weird, like the pass defense, wasn't ideal. The pass rush, not ideal. But I look at a team who drafted a running back with a top 10 pick and able to neutralize them when there was a lot of hype in there. I know he had a touchdown. I know there's a weird stat where he only had 31 rush yards, but 43 after contact or something goofy like that, where I'm like, there are positives to take away from in that aspect, but I feel like this Sunday they have a really big opportunity to where I know if they go 0-2 and they lose to Miami, a game we all expect them to lose going into the season, but now you kind of open the door where I'm not saying belt to ass, but you go down there and you can take an advantage of that team. You know what? You can find their expletives, and for lack of a better word, when Bill is here, go squish some fish.
Yeah, I think obviously Miami looked awful on Sunday against Indianapolis. They scored 8 points, and that came on a running back swing screen late in the game. They scored 8 points, and they were just out there just catching the shellacking from Daniel Jones and the high-powered Colts offense. I can't believe that's a real sentence. So, obviously the Patriots have an opportunity to go down there and do something, but I think there are some legitimate issues that they need to clean up before we even get there, right? We saw some things. They put some things on tape against the Raiders that, alarming. It's like it just didn't look how it was supposed to look. Obviously, it's week 1. You don't want to ever overreact to week 1. I think people tend to go right off the deep end in that regard. But there were just some things you saw on tape against the Raiders that, you kind of, if it happened last year, you'd understand it a little better. Having it happen again this year, you're like, thought we kind of took care of that. But
yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Where it's like if this year, if you go down there and you're on the end of where Miami was last week, it's such a, not a red flag, but it's a big area for concern, because if you look after what Miami's done, it's kind of like, okay, now Pittsburgh coming in, and I'm not saying he's MVP, but Aaron Rodgers wanted to give it to the Jets, and he did. And then after that, I know there's 3 or 4 look winnable, but at the same time too, it's the NFL and anything can happen. So I feel like a win on this Sunday can really help catapult and also help not quiet, but really shy away a lot of the negativity that the fan base has been, spewing out over the last 48 hours, especially with, the start Chicago got off to last night. But obviously you came in and said, oh, why are they booing? And then you go, that's why, avoid that.
Yeah. I think most people will kind of course correct in our fan base anyway. I think people's expectations were too high, but I've been saying that all summer. People were like, oh, this is a 10-11 win team, wild card. They're going to be, and I'm like, all right, let's kind of wait for the football and actually witness what we're working with before we start making, bold claims. But I think people's expectations were too high. And so this response, all of the, the overreaction, I think is an overcorrection, right? Like they were too high on one end and now they're going too low, to the point where people are questioning, oh, well, what about, is Drake the guy? Is Drake the guy? Which, it's funny because in this fan base, you can always spot exactly where a certain take started and why it has, grown legs. But you think back to, the prevailing conversation right now, all of yesterday and then into this morning was, is there too much on Drake May's plate? And that was something that was immediately started by Tom Curran and Phil Perry over on the NBC Sports. They made that comment and it kind of just went from there, right? Because people like them, right? And that's just kind of the nature of a fandom in the first place. Like if someone likes what you say, they'll take it. And if they think that, and no one's going to admit this, but if they think you're smarter than them, they will absolutely just take what you say and just run with it. And so, Tom Curran kind of posited that on his podcast. And I've seen that phrase no less than like 15 times since yesterday, the whole too much on his plate. But he wasn't really asked to do like anything crazy, right? Like it's not like he's not being asked to like, hey, we're gonna like drop back pass and just pinpoint down the field balls. It's stuff like, we're just running a couple crossers. Like, can we hit that? Couple stop routes, can we hit that? And so the whole idea of like, oh, is there too much on his plate? I'm like, schematically, no. Like, right? Like we can watch the film and see that like schematically that's not the case. Now, if you want to argue, are they putting too much on his plate in asking him to do a lot with a little? I guess I can understand that, but I also don't really buy the idea that yesterday, offensive weaponry was like a big concern, right? So, people with that take of like, oh, they're asking him to kind of carry a bad offense. It's like, it wasn't really like, oh no, the skill position wasn't doing what they were doing. It was just, Drake was missing throws and there were a couple drops, and they couldn't run the football. So, in that sense, yeah, I get that. But the big thing is they just need to be able to run the football for, way better than they did yesterday, right? Ramondre Stevenson ends the game, 7 carries for 15 yards. Like it's not going to get a ton. Travion Henderson had 27 yards, and like there was just nothing on the ground. Funny you mentioned, you mentioned Ashton Genty having 38 yards rushing, and 44 of those came after contact.
Yeah.
And Ramondre's were more or less the same. He had 15 yards rushing, 17 of which came after contact. Like that's atrocious. That's a run blocking issue, right? But no one really wants to hear that because right now Ramondre is he's kind of in that Isaiah Wynn role, right? Where prior to the start of the season, people have just kind of decided like he sucks, we don't like him, and as a result, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. But when a running back rushes for more yards after contact than they end the game with, it's an issue up front, right? And then that also leads into, and this was bound to happen with Josh McDaniels anyways, because that's kind of people's thing with him. They'll get into the, it's the play calling. Oh, Josh McDaniels back at it again. It's the play calling. And the plays they'll use to cite their sources to be like, yeah, you see, that's a problem, is like the 3rd and 1 where, they throw the toss and Mondre, gains no yards on it, right? And you watch that and he's hit 2 yards into the backfield, right? Like Mike Onwenu got absolutely just walked back and he's hit 2 yards in the backfield and he makes, he picks up 2 yards after contact for 0 net. And people are like, oh, look at that bad play call. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, he's just running the ball. Like, you mean to tell me we can't pick up a yard on 3rd and 1? And you're going to say that's a bad play call? Later in the game, there was another one where instead of tossing it, they just kind of turned around, gave it to Mondre on a, just a regular old dive play up the middle. And he got hit in the backfield, right? He got hit he got hit a yard deep in the backfield and picked up 1. And again, it's like, oh, look at the bad play calling. And I'm like, we're talking about 3rd and short here, right? Like, if you can't run the ball on 3rd and 2, like what are we talking about? You can't be like, hey, that's a bad play call. It's a bad result. But like, the play call it's standard as hell. Like, we're just gonna run the ball. Like, anyone who's ever played Madden knows you get in that that tight yardage. It's 3rd and 1. You got to pick up a first down. Most people are just gonna run it right up the middle. Like, the fastest path is right up the middle. Like, fuck it, we're just gonna give him the football. And so we see plays like that, and when they don't work, it's bad play calling, it's this, it's that. It was just it was poor execution, and that's really what it's been the last few years too. Last year was a lot of coaching, but last few years we could always point and be like, hey, the execution on this just wasn't very good. Like, and we see that. And again, going back to Drake, people are way overreacting on him, but he did not, he didn't play great. People are like, oh, he had a bad game. And I think that's really strong. He did not have a bad game. He was fine. He missed 3 throws from just my rewatch of the game. He missed 3 throws high, right? And you're like, oh man, those are some issues. But he also made some throws that like objectively are sick throws, right? Like he had the back shoulder to Hunter Henry up the seam. Like the ball was so well thrown, I couldn't even figure out where it was. Like it was just caught. Like all of a sudden the ball was just caught. And I'm like, oh my God, how did he throw? Then you see the throw and you're like, that is a sick throw to a guy who's not open, right? Like, cause he's not open, and they just forced him open with a back shoulder throw, and he got that. He had a really sick throw over the middle to Keyshawn Boutte, where he kind of, Boutte's coming across and he like sits in the zone because the Raiders played so much fucking zone, but he just sits in the zone, and Drake hits him on the back on the back shoulder instead of the front shoulder. And in that case, it wasn't like a fade or anything. It just needed to be there because you had a linebacker underneath, and you're like, okay, cool. That's a good throw. Like that's just objectively a good throw. It's behind because it needs to be behind, and you're trying to protect your receiver, and that is all we're looking for. The interception is the interception. He got hit, like, and people will say, oh, he should have made that decision. It's a bad decision. I think it's probably fine. He got hit, and the ball got picked off. That happens. That literally, I mean, simply happens. Nothing you can do about that. People want him to swallow it and just take the sack. But then if he did that, then they'd be complaining after the fact, like, oh my God, he just swallowed it and just took the sack. But that's how it is in general. People's expectations are too high. And so as a result, they're going to over criticize and coming days, just overcorrect, where now they're going to be too low. Pats are going to go out there, beat Miami, and all of a sudden, we'll probably find a middle ground of what people think this team will be. Right now, it's way too high for a team that just has some issues, talent wise, right? Or I would say talent wise has some issues because it's a matter of like they have all of these young guys, right? They drafted, everyone really liked the draft, myself included, really liked their draft class from this past offseason. But it feels like people just aren't giving enough credit to the fact that like these guys still need to like actually develop, right? Like we like them as players, but like they have to like get out there and do it. So when Jared Wilson goes out there and he's having a kind of a tough game on a snap to snap consistency basis, that feels bad. Even beyond that, you have like the veterans, who they brought into free agency. Morgan Moses, he allowed 5 pressures yesterday. On Sunday, he allowed 5 pressures. And people were kind of worried about that. A lot of those came on stunts, and people were really concerned that him and he and Mike Onwenu weren't picking up the stunts. But that's just something that comes with chemistry, right? Those guys haven't played next to each other very often at all, because you think Morgan Moses, I don't even think he played in the preseason. All right, like I
don't think so.
Like, did he play in any of those games? like I not really sure. And even in practice, he was out a lot. And you had Marcus Bryant playing, right tackle for a good bit of camp there, especially the week of the Minnesota game, where he just really didn't practice very much. So it's just going to take a little bit of time for those guys to kind of get their chemistry right and gel. And that's what you hear about offensive line play all the time around the league. But you know how it is. Once the games start, people want results, and people want results now. So
exactly, it's the whole like it's not what have you done for me in the past, is what have you done for me lately. You put it up that well, just because obviously we're trying to keep this short today, because there's not like, we're not going into like an hour detail talk about one first bad game of the year. But one player I want to give my flowers, honestly, is Garrett Bradbury. I know the signing was very not scrutinized, but it was questioned by a lot of people, but I felt like he had a solid game. I felt like his name wasn't called. And when you're an offensive lineman and your name's not being called, usually, hey, he had a good game. Like I don't think he allowed any pressures. There was no pressures. There was no miscommunication between him and Drake. There was no like weird snaps. Like there was, what game was it this weekend where there was a couple bobbled snaps. Was it Thursday Night Football or was it Sunday? I'm trying to remember. There was one game where there was some goofy snaps, but you know, like that's the thing. Like where a player like him, where people didn't expect much, people were just like outright out on him. He did fine. Like it's like nowhere to complain about. And if you can get that out of the center, something the Patriots, I know obviously they had David Andrews, but last year when it's basically a revolving door at center between Cole Strange, Ben Brown, et cetera, it's nice to have a reliable option at that position, a position that's, I don't want to say underrated, but it's very underappreciated by the average football fans. They don't like everyone, tackle is like the quote unquote sexy position on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. One only other detail that I'll carry into, I agree with you on the running. I think, you got to start that going. And I feel it too, especially with, I know the Raiders D-line, including your boy Tyree Wilson, he had a really good game. Max Crosby, he had some moments. I know he had the crybaby emoji, but wasn't, that have to play up kind of football player we've expected him to be. But there's a lot of positives to take away from this game. And I'll say this too. If that's a bad game from Drake May, take that as a win, Patriots fans. Don't look at that as a bad thing. Don't look at it as, he sucked. Oh, he did this. Yeah. But at the same time, too, he could have gone out there and, thrown for 2 interceptions for like 100 and something yards. Instead, he had what? I think it was like 271, 71. I think it was 71 completion percentage or 71 completion rate. I think it was. But, and the one interception really was only thrown because of just him getting hit and launching the ball at the same time. So all in all, like, yeah, there's a lot to learn from. But at the same time, too, we most reasonable Pats fans, you, myself, and I'm going to say one fan/reporter, obviously it's just McGarvin and I tonight, but with Sophie, we all knew this because I actually messaged her Sunday saying, hey, this is a kind of game. Actually, it was yesterday. And because also I want to check in on her boyfriend after Sunday Night Football. But basically I said this, hey, it was a disappointing result, but there are going to be growing pains this year. And it's nice to see. It's a refreshing football team to see. So I think there is a lot to take away from this to where going forward, and hopefully 5 or 6 nights from now, whenever you and I are doing this next, because God knows I'm not staying up for the second Monday Night Football game. Hopefully it's just, hey, there's learning there, hey, hopefully they take stuff from this loss and go ahead. The only note I'll end it on is, because you brought up NBC Sports Boston, there's a video of Will Campbell going around basically just like, you know what, hey, we didn't win. Like the fact that he's just like, yeah, I played well, but we didn't win. The fact that he's, as a rookie in his first ever game, holds that sense of accountability where it's just, yeah, we want to win. Hey, we know the position we're in, but we want to bring victories. We want to bring promise back to this one-storied franchise. Shows that these players care. There's a sense of buy-in that they have that I truly respect. And honestly, as a fan, you can't complain about something like that. But going forward, I think there's just, if I look at a key to victory for Sunday, I think it's just just stick to what you know. Hopefully Christian Gonzalez gets back. I know DJ James was cut today. Boy Farms is back on the practice squad, which I know.
Farms. Yeah, DJ Farms, LOL. DJ James getting waived. I don't think it has anything to do with Christian Gonzalez. Simply because Gonzalez was already on the 53. So it wasn't like they needed to like cut him to move to make a corresponding move. I'm curious. He didn't play very much, right? He played, I think, 7 total snaps, 2 on defense, 5 on special teams. So I'm unsure what's going on there, but the Patriots are probably going to need to add another corner, right? Like, or elevate someone from the practice squad, just because they don't have a ton of depth if Gonzalez can't go. And also with Gonzalez, even if he does come back this coming Sunday, I'd be surprised if he is himself. Just given that he hasn't practiced since July, right? Like, and we're in September, he hasn't practiced since July, so like that's, I think that's going to be a big ask for him, for you to bring him out in Miami, and then just telling him like, hey, go run around with these guys, go run around with Jalen Waddle. I need you to step for step with Tyreek Hill. Like that's a big ask. At the same time, I think they're probably gonna want him out there if he's healthy enough. They're gonna put him out there, right? I think they're gonna do that because they kind of have to. Something we didn't mention in that in the recap of the Raiders game is I think the safety play was atrocious. Craig Woodson had a good game, but that's pretty much it. Jalen Hawkins ended up with like a decent stat line, right? Like he had an interception, he had a sack, so you kind of feel good about that. He gave up 88 yards and a touchdown though, and took a few bad angles, missed 3 tackles like that.
Yep.
We can't look at that like, hey, that was pretty good. Like it wasn't. It wasn't. Kyle Duggar played 7 snaps. He started the game. He played 7 total snaps. I don't really understand. Don't really understand that. I know obviously they want their safeties back a little more, and so they get a lot more deeper responsibility in this defense than last year where you had those guys down in the box like all the time. The Patriots aren't really doing that a ton this year, or haven't done that a ton this year. So Pettis played more snaps than Duggar, and I don't really think he played particularly well either. So I don't know. The safety play is concerning, and I think if Jalen Hawkins goes out there and has another night, has a Sunday like he had this past Sunday, the Patriots are in trouble because the Raiders have one deep threat, right? They have one guy that you kind of have to worry about deep. I think Trey Tucker is fast as fuck, and I think he's a good player as well. But he's more horizontal. Get him the ball in his hand and let him go from there. As far as like running by you, you're worried about Dante Thornton. Like he's the only one you have to worry about there. But in Miami, you still have to. I mean, and I know Tyreek Hill isn't Tyreek Hill these days, but he'll still run by a motherfucker. So I'm concerned about that. And when you add in Jalen Waddle on the other side, it could get a little scary. So you kind of want your best safety play there. I haven't seen enough out of these safeties for me to be like, oh no, they'll probably be fine. So
yeah, that's the thing. I need to see a solid game from them. I'll say this too. Because look, there's not much else to talk about when it comes to the Raider game. Like, hey, we covered all the bases in the short amount of time we have. But it's just is what it is. You got to move on to the next one. I'd rather be in our position with our safety play than be a team like Buffalo and have concerns with their safety play because
that was rough. Yeah, but they won the game.
Yeah, they won the game, so that's all that matters with them. We didn't. Patriots, as of right now, it is a bit of a pick'em line where they are a slight underdog against the Dolphins. I feel like more of the attention's going to be on Miami going into the week just from the national media because hey, you're Miami. The vibes have been all, I don't even want to say bad. It's just been awkward all offseason. Like no one knows we get it from there. They have just, does a wide receiver want to trade? What's going to happen here? Are you going to be the Jets of last year where everything just goes south? Because they've got a short week coming up. They have to go to Buffalo. And then they got Monday Night Football against the Jets. They start 0-3. I don't know if Stephen Ross is going to be letting I don't know if he'd be rash to make changes like that, but you got to figure if they lose Sunday and then morale going into a building where they haven't had much success over the last, ever since Josh Allen became Josh Allen, this is more of a must-win game for them to where I can see them succumbing to that pressure. New England squeaking one out when no one really thinks New England can go in there and do it just because, that history of Miami, the Miami flu game, call it if you will.
Yeah. Obviously with Miami, at this point we're all kind of taking the stand of like, all right, you got to just show me, like you just got to win the game, because the Patriots, over the last few years have had very winnable games against Miami and just didn't finish. So we'll see. I think I don't know if they're going to succumb to the pressure of avoiding an 0-3 start or in this case 0-2 and then eventually 0-3 when they play Buffalo. I think what's going to get them is that they're going to succumb to their defense being absolutely hot garbage water. So like that's what's going to doom them. I mean, goodness, Lord help us. I don't know what they're doing at their cornerback situation. They have really good pass rushers though. That's cool. I like their D line quite a bit, but I was not moved at all by the rest of their defense. Like the back seven mess.
I did not realize Xavier Howard was a Colt until I listened to a podcast about, and they basically mentioned that. Yeah, he basically said we knew how to beat him. Like I did not because I knew he was hurt all last year, but I do this every year where like some random guy will show up and I'm like, holy crap, he's on this team, or oh yeah, I forgot this guy went to this team. That happens all the time. Like where it's just is what it is. But no, this is the start of an exciting series McGarvin and I have. Who knows? There'll be some guests along the way, so if you'll be here along the way whenever the busy schedule allows for it. But hopefully in our short little 25 minutes together, we hope we make Patriot fans feel better. And then hopefully next time you come back, there can be some talk of victory, a little bit more morale, and a little bit more to jump in on. But anyway, for a short, quick recap, he's been McGarvin. I've been Griff. Hopefully we've been good therapists today because, look, I do it for fun. He actually gets paid to do it, but on a different scale. But anyway, guys, just got to move on to week 2. That's all you got to do. Move on to week 2 and hope for the best against Miami. Squish the fish. Enjoy your day. Have a good night.